Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Chris Boggle's Album Club. Now, as usual, with me, I have Ben,
Stand by me.
Matthew,
It was only a kiss. It was only a kiss. Now I'm falling asleep, and it's 7 o'clock.
and Van.
And so Sally can wait.
Alright, well, of course, today, as usual, we will be doing two albums, and you all excited to hear what the albums are?
Vaguely, but also could be
Yeah.
very disappointed.
Don't be disappointed, my sweet child. You will have plenty of great albums to listen to.
Sweet child of mine.
Alright,
Sorry.
here are the albums, guys. The albums are... First off, one whose artist we've actually done before, although Fan wasn't here at that point. Fear of a Black Planet by Public Enemy. So if you guys liked the last Public Enemy, well, here's another one for you. And the next album is, of course, What's the Story? Morning Glory by Oasis. I just told you we'd be doing Oasis very soon. I just told you we were going to be doing them very soon.
I did not know that when I sang the song from that album. I did not know that. Don't look back and angry, everybody.
I was doing Oasis. If Fan was doing Oasis, what were you doing, Matthew?
I was doing the Killers.
Okay.
Mr. Brightside.
Oh my god. I forgot. Anyway. But yes, Fan and I were doing Oasis, and here it is, Oasis.
One of the worst bands of all time.
Rest.
Like, no, they're ass. Like, they're literally just like, we could do the Beatles, but less good.
They don't sound anything like the Beatles. They don't sound
literally do
anything.
every Beatles reference. They're literally like, oh, you like the
They
Beatles?
bring them up lyrically sometimes.
Why would I want to bring up the Beatles when I can actually listen to the Beatles?
I mean,
Oasis is better than the Beatles, and we are gonna find that out throughout this episode.
no.
No!
I am adamant. I would rather
Dude,
Oasis every day over the Beatles.
Wait. Which Oasis album, which they were like good for like 2 albums, is better than the Beatles?
This
Which
one.
ones?
This one,
No.
What's the Story, Morning
This is
Glory, is
better
better
than-
than any Beatles album.
No! You're telling me this is better than Abbey Road and I was about to say System of a Down.
That's not the Beatles.
It's also
This is
better than
better-
any from Metallica record, but that's a much
No!
smaller
No.
line.
No.
That might be true.
That's crazy. Alright, Ben, go for it. Go for it. I'm sorry. I already know which one I'm picking based off of pure bias, but Ben, go for it.
I'm undecided. I have heard Fear of a Black Planet before. I've heard Pulse of What's the Story, Morning Glory. So, I mean, I think I will probably like both of these albums.
Alright, Matthew.
I actually have not listened to this album by Public Enemy. I've heard the other It Takes a Million of blah 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 blah. I've heard that album. I do know the big song of this album, which is featured in one of the greatest movies of all time, Do the Right Thing, as well as Oasis. They are top 5 of my least favorite bands of all time. They are boring. There is nothing there's nothing interesting about them per se. It's like Oasis, Steely Dan. Although Steely Dan is a better band than Oasis. Train. I would even say Imagine Dragons is better than Oasis, even though Imagine Dragons,
Dude, what?
being the face of American pop rock music, is a travesty. Yeah, I I'll comment to Open Eye, but I already know.
Alright, Fan.
So the exact opposite opinion, Oasis is actually my top 10 favorite bands. Allegedly announcing the U.S. tour dates, and I'm very eagerly awaiting, because I'm definitely going to go see them. What's a Story, Morning Glory is actually probably one of my top. It is one of my top 10 favorite albums of all time. So I mean, sorry, Public Enemy. I mean, Public Enemy's cool. At first, I thought you said "Fear of a Blank Planet," which was Porcupine Tree. We did the Stephen Wilson. I was like, yes, okay, that would have been a challenge between "Fear of a Blank Planet" and Oasis. "Fear of the Black Planet." I'm sure it's going to be a very good record. I've heard of it. And I'm excited to listen to it. But yeah, unless this album is like unbelievable, I don't think it really has a shot.
Oh, well, as for me, I listened to the previous Public Enemy album. We did that on the Album Club Hill a good while ago. When was that, like last year or something? Or really this year?
It was, I believe, our 10th episode. I think it was our 10th episode.
There was one who was up against the 2020 Experience, right?
It was against the 2020 Experience. An album that is actually better than Oasis.
I doubt it.
Clear.
I've never listened to a full Oasis album, but I doubt. I'm not really a fan of Oasis. They try to be kind of like a knockoff of the Beatles or a knockoff of the Kinks, and
That's what I'm saying.
it's kind of mid, but like.
These are opinions by people who have never listened to Oasis and just listen to people talk about Oasis.
And I'm like, this is ass. Like,
I've heard Oasis songs, just not a full album.
Oh. This isn't even the quote-unquote best album by Oasis. Year by Year, or whatever. Or what's that album? I forgot. It's not
Definitely
this.
Maybe.
Yeah, Definitely Maybe, or whatever. No. Which is the one from Train Records?
What's the story Mona Glow
You
is
know?
definitely of the best Oasis album.
Definitely Maybe and What's the Story Morning Glory are actually the two that
No,
I really regarded.
It's not
Yeah.
Beat on.
I mean, they all are. They all were like top 5 hits in the UK
But yeah,
at
what's the
least.
story Mona
Wait a
Glow
minute.
in this one? It's not
Wait a
one-
minute. Which one has Wonderwall?
It's this one.
This one.
Story Mona Glow.
Oh, no! I hate that song with a
I love that song.
Oh,
It's alright.
I mean,
Why?
It's pretty good.
What do you like about that song? I'm a very open-minded person, but what about Wonderwall is good? Because it's literally every stereotype of a dude with acoustic guitar at a party. Like, what about it do you like? Before we talk
Great
about it.
lyrics. I love the lyrics. Great imagery in the song. I love the chords. The two fingers on the, well, what would it be on the? Because it's capo on F sharp. Usually I don't play with the capo. So on the E and the A, throughout the whole song, adds a nice kind of pedal tone to it that really opens up the sound. It's got a great full sound. I think it's a brilliant song. I don't think there's really anything to hate about it. I love the
There's a
pedal
lot
throughout.
to
It's one of the big things.
There's a lot to hate about it, respectfully. I think it's
I mean,
one
I
of the
think
most.
it's been kind of beaten down,
It's
and
the
I think
most
that's
overrated
why
song.
people don't like it.
It
but, I
is
mean-
one of the most. Sorry.
I think it's the second most streamed song of the entire 90s, and it was number 1 at some point before I think Teen Spirit took it over. But,
Can't stand Smells
so-
Like Teen Spirit, but I would rather listen to Smells Like Teen Spirit than.
but you can't stand. I knew that you thought it was overrated, but I didn't know that you couldn't stand it. Come on,
I
Yeah.
don't like Teen Spirit. I can't stand that song. I'm in agreement with
No,
you.
Teen Spirit rock. Like, in comparison, I'm not saying Teen Spirit is my favorite Nirvana song. Everyone knows how my feelings about Smells Like Teen Spirit. Like, I think it's overrated. It's not even, like, the best of that album. It's not one of my favorite Nirvana songs. But still, I would rather listen to Smell Like Teen Spirit than Wonderwall. You know, it's just like, every time I get a queasy, like, feeling about Wonderwall. So, I already know that I'm not gonna like that song on re-listen. Yeah, Smell Like Teen Spirit rocks relatively in comparison to Wonderwall.
Alright, well, y'all ready to go listen to these albums? I mean, Matthew's gonna hate it, but whatever.
My
I'm
motion is that-
excited. it's fun having one person who really loves it and one person who really hates it. So I'm actually really excited.
We're gonna go listen to the albums and we'll be right back. Alright, we are back and have listened to the albums. The first album was Fear of a Black Planet by Public Enemy, and as usual, we are going to be starting with you, Ben.
So Feel of a Black Planet is an album I have listened to before. I have previously said on this channel that I think that a lot of production in Public Enemy and their use of samples is very good. And I stand by that. I think that they do address some interesting political issues. And they'll kind of sound collage of samples, of the way that they use interludes. I think that these work. That being said, I think this time it came across a little bit less good to me than it had previously.
You mean
So
you mean on this album, or on this album, like the previous times you listened to it, or on the previous Public Enemy? Okay, because I was confused if you were talking about on the previous Public Enemy album, which we listened to a while back, or if you meant this album.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
This album is probably slightly weak over the previous one. But has better, I don't know, peaks. Obviously, Fight the Power is a very well-known song from the movie Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee. But there's also notably 911 is a joke, and Bone Hollywood Bone featuring Ice Cube. Also Big Daddy Kane from the Juice WRLD. So those tracks stand out. Bone Hollywood Bone is very silly in some ways, though, but it does have a legitimate point about the different stereotypes that black actors got stuck in. I think that this album altogether does a sorted section of Welcome to the Telodrome notwithstanding. Mostly revisit and thus improve upon some of the flaws with black nationalism that we saw with the previous album. So, for instance, most of the song Polly Want a Cracker sounds like it's complaining about mixed race couples, but it's not actually. Chuck D talks about people purposely looking for white or black, white boyfriends or girlfriends. But he also then, because I don't think black is beautiful, but then he does swap at the end into attacking the people that go Polly Want a Cracker. That he swaps into he criticizes them, right? The God made us all humans, but then the devil made us black and white. Who cares? But who cares what race? But why are you even judging who you're dating based off of that? Which does kind of make some of us song seem a little hypocritical, I think. But it's not really. People all use evil purposely picking those that are overweight because of prestige, or purposely picking, or judging then judging those people or other people that are doing it for not that reason, in a racist way as well, right? In a black nationalist way. It feels like there's another song that deals with that topic. Oh, Feel of a Black Paradise, the title track. That's the other song that does with this, right? That song is about hysterias that we have seen again.
Yeah.
Often they get attributed to as a recent phenomenon, the great replacement theory, etc. Which we think of as like a recent phenomenon because that phrasing is... Oh, that phrasing is actually from the 2000s. And European, but... Let's feel about, more mixed race people. Who cares if your child has... Well, number one, somebody... And I don't really remember... I don't recognize the voices of other members of Public Enemy besides Chuck D and Flavor Flav. But, there are other members of it. But I don't recognize their voices. But, somebody says, like, I hate to tell you the news, but white comes from black. Something like that. And then secondly, Chuck D raps about, like, why do you care if you have some black or brown in your family tree? Alright? So there was this kind of critique of black nationalism that gets taken up in this album. I think vis-a-vis the previous album. The Feel of a Black Planet is aimed at white people, but it also kind of gets aimed at black nationalism as well. Black nationalists aren't afraid of a black planet, but they uphold the separation anyway. Yeah. This does somewhat come to a head in Welcome to the Telodrome, which has amazing production, and like mostly very good writing, but does stumble in a couple places, unfortunately. So, let's get this out of the way. So, Professor Graff, who's a member of Public Enemy, is a member of Nation of Islam. Right, that's why we saw this like praising of Louis Farrakhan in the last album we did. Now, Progressive Graff had been, I think, demoted at this point. Let me double check. Was in the process of his controversy, at least. I don't know the timeline on all of this, actually. It's like he got fired, he got back, and then the group disbanded, and then I don't know, there's this big chain of events. Professor Graff said a number of things about, one, that there's no place for gays, about, like, in society, and then he said something that crossed the line into anti-Semitism. So that was in '88. I'm not going to repeat that because that's not going to be allowed on YouTube, but he said that there was no place for gays, and something about killing a bunch of people. It has some fight with some record executive named Leo Cohen, who I don't know much about. He tried to defuse the situation from what I could tell. Like, I don't seem to have any... It doesn't seem like he was the problem. I think some of this also had to do with beef with Frank Rubin, who was obviously one of the most important producers of all time. But Rick Rubin wasn't there anymore because he'd been replaced with Leo Cohen. Leo Cohen had tried to defuse the situation. So there's this whole chain of events. Unfortunately, this chain of events gets captured in this song with the following lyrics. Crucifixion ain't no fiction. So-called chosen frozen, apologize to whoever pleases. They still got me like Jesus. Why the hell did you say that, Chuck D? Weren't you trying to mediate this situation? I think Chuck D is generally a good guy, but like... I don't know what to say about that. Like, it seems to be being like, well, the crucified Professor Graff like they crucified Jesus, which is it's anti-Semitic. I don't know what else to say. It's an anti-Semitic line. But they have an anti-Semitic member. Even if they'll try to overcome the cause of that, which is this black nationalism we talked about with the previous episode on them. They're still snuck in there. Alright, Chuck D says the line. Doesn't mean he wrote that, but he at least said it, and that is on him. That being said, I mean, this album does have lots of strengths. 911, not 9/11. 911 is a joke. Often ends up being taken up as a song about, like, oh, the police are a joke. But it's, like, obviously not actually about that if you listen to its lyrics. It's very obviously about sometimes emergency services don't come, they're just lazy, they don't help.
Yeah, if it's in a black neighborhood, it's in particular is what they're saying.
Yeah, this is actually related to the... Crown Heights Riot, which is this song came out prior to that, but the original reason for Crown Heights Riot before it just turned into an anti-Semitic back nationalist mess was that when the Schneelson's motorcade collided with the Guyanese children because of the bad driving of one of them. The medical services paid a lot more attention to the driver whose life was not in danger than the kids, and one of them died. That was the original issue that got people mad. That led to the Crown Heights riots. Now, obviously, the Crown Heights riot was like racism and medical services, then transformed into the Jews are bad, which a real issue then gets taken up into anti-Semitic black nationalism. But this was a real issue, but it's become so hard to. In some ways, it's become hard to discuss. But if you go to like public health departments, or even my department in political science, there was discussion about medical racism, etc. We've seen more of that. Claude Bush talks about that. But there was kind of a period of talking about it, but complicated New York politics reasons got taken up into this anti-Semitic black nationalism there. Anyway. But 911 as a joke is definitely not anti-Semitic. And I think is a good song for thinking about medical racism. I think that's enough for me for now. But if anyone has any questions, let me know.
All right, Matthew, it is your turn next.
I thought this album was fine. I think it's weaker than It Takes a Nation of Millions to Take Us All Down. I believe that's what it's called. I think there were too many tracks in this album. However, I think the topics, anti-Semitism notwithstanding, are very important to talk about, and that's like what Public Enemy was known for, is like being very socially and politically conscious. And I would say, of course, the best song in this album is Fight the Power, which was featured in Do the Right Thing, which is, as relevant as it is today than it was, as it was when it first came out. And yeah, I thought this was a fine album.
All right, Fan?
So, I thought this album was okay. I feel like my biggest issue with it that was a big turn-off for me was the amount of sampling. Like, I liked the samples that they used, but they would layer like 4 or 5 in at a time, all playing, and it's like you're trying to listen to Chuck D rap, and then out of nowhere there's just like a bunch of guitar soloing in the background, and you're like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be paying attention to, because rap music is obviously, very lyrical genre, probably more than any other genre of music. So it's just like there was kind of so much going on throughout the record that it was kind of hard to focus on one thing, and that really kind of took me out of it. I do really like Chuck D a lot. I think he has such a powerful just voice when he raps and stuff. I just really like the sound of him, but overall I just feel like this album was excessive. I've listened to other Public Enemy songs not on this record, and I feel like none of them were like quite as aggressive with how many things are going on at once. But overall, not a huge fan, but not terrible. Fight the Power, I'm upset that they cut out the saxophone solo from Branford Marsalis, one of the greatest sax players of all time. So I don't know why they didn't put that on the CD release. The version I listened to was the one without it, so that was kind of upsetting. But overall, it was okay. Not a terrible listen.
Wait, did you buy this on CD to listen to for the album club?
No, it's just I was looking it up, and this is apparently the CD release is the one that doesn't have the saxophone.
So is it on cassette then? Or
no, it was on the single for Fight the Power.
Yeah,
when it came out.
I assumed
it was released.
I assumed it was on the single. I was just But the fact that you were saying CD release as opposed to album release kind of confused me, because obviously cassette was still the biggest selling format at the time this came out.
Yeah, I guess that's just what I read. But I think that came out on the single for the Do the Right Thing soundtrack, not on this.
Alright, well.
I have a direct response.
Yeah, Ben, go ahead.
So, I mean, you're right, the intensity of the sampling and the intensity of the lyrics can sometimes clash. But I think Public Enemy in some ways is it's not the group that established this, but I think that they perfected it with the sound collage style of sampling alongside very important lyrics. Well, they're both extremely important to its sound. The density of sound collage sampling, I think of as a definitive characteristic of Public Enemy. They do it the most. Some of these songs have like 20 samples.
Well, I do agree that it's very definitive to the sound. That doesn't change the fact that I don't really like it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Let me double check. There's some Public Enemy songs. I don't remember which one it is.
I personally think, since this is kind of my turn, I personally think the overall usage of sampling, the sort of sample kind of sound collage blitz is kind of a interesting sound. It's not my favorite. I certainly think it's a kind of interesting sound in and of itself, and it creates this really sort of kind of punchy, almost overwhelming sort of attack sort of sound, especially when kind of together with Chuck D's voice. That's just my 2 cents on it. It's not really specific to this album so much as it is to this band as a whole, but
yeah, I mean it's a wall of sound of samples, basically.
Yeah, it's interesting in a way. It's kind of a successor to sort of like 60s kind of wall of sound stuff in a way, just some quite indirectly, but still kind of.
Yeah, but somewhere between 150 and 200 samples on this album.
Must have been a pain to make. I know that.
Yes, apparently 95% of the samples that they tried did not work. So this is just the 5% that did.
You gotta appreciate it. I mean, you gotta give some respect at least with the amount of production that went in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is, and I've discussed this in the "Is New Metal Good or Bad" episode. Like, I think that Public Enemy doing this is like a vindication of, in some ways, a lot of the experimentalism of the '60s in terms of production. Hip hop vindicates that. Even its excesses, like Revolution 9, for instance. It shows that sound collages can work hip hop. They have to be a lot shorter, a lot more contained within themselves. They have to be strung together in some sort of web-mech way instead of just being a sound collage without any web. Well, that was kind of a weird rhythm to Revolution 9 sometimes, but you have to be a lot more. I don't want to say John Lennon wasn't being intentional like he was, but web-mech. You have to be. It has to have more actual traditional music theory. I don't know what else to say.
All right. Back to me because I haven't given my full thoughts on the album yet. I mean, I'm not sure if I like this better or worse than It Takes a Nation Millions to Hold Us Back, which we did just a little bit ago, but, I did generally like this album, especially like the song 911 is a Joke. We already sort of talked about that one, but I did like that one. Yeah, it occasionally has some questionable stuff, like in Welcome to the Terror Dome, but most of it pretty good. I mean, as for the sound, I guess I already sort of just gave my thoughts here just a second ago. on Public Enemy's kind of sound and production as a whole. It's not like my main cup of tea or anything. You know me, I'm primarily like a rock guy, but I did like it. Certainly, I think more than the fan did. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a huge amount I have to say about this that Ben didn't already do when he went overboard and tried to dissect like literally everything, but I did think this was a solid album. Alright, the next album was, of course, What's the Story? Morning Glory by Oasis. And we are going to start with you, Ben, as usual. What were your thoughts on this album?
Today is gonna be the day that they send it back to you.
Stop.
So, Wet Pop. I personally tend to actually prefer Damon Albarn. I prefer Damon Albarn to the Gallagher's. I prefer 10 people that don't know about this topic. So in Britain, there was in the mid-90s something called the Britpop Wars, where this kind of genre, I don't know how to describe it, unfortunately. Maybe Fan can in better detail than I. But there's this genre that draws more on like the Beatles and stuff and grunge, has a lot of sound of grunge. It's called Britpop. It's not pop. You know, you'd think Britpop would describe like the Spice Girls, but it doesn't. That is British pop. But
I mean, Spice Girls are... The
Huh?
Spice Girls are kind of a part of it, though. I mean, they're kind of around that same time. They kind of blew up. You know, they say that about Cool Britannia or whatever, and that was, like, kind of a thing. It's not really the same sound as Oasis has, but I do think, to some degree, their success in a way was linked to a sort of image appeal in the press, at least.
Yeah, I mean, Britpop doesn't sound like the Spice Girls, though. It feels like if Britpop wasn't called Britpop, the Spice Girls would be called Britpop. But Britpop won't exist. It's weird to... I don't know. I find this name weird. It's a form of rock. It's like an alt-rock that is a more upbeat, 60s influenced version. That's a reaction to grunge.
It's kind of just mod too, Ben.
Yeah, it takes up the Beatles, especially in Oasis, and it takes up
The Kinks.
The Kinks. Which means I'm favorably disposed to them, because those are some of my favorite bands. So there was a competition between Oasis, which is led by the Gallagher's, Nolan Liam, and then Blur, that was led by Damon Albarn. And I think it's generally considered that Oasis won that battle. Well, maybe not the specific battle, but that they won that war. And then Damon Albarn won history, because Damon Albarn's still relevant in a way that Oasis is not.
Oasis just sold out like over 1 million tickets, by the way. So they're still very relevant.
I mean, I know that they're popular still. But I don't think they're musically relevant in the same way. I could be wrong, but I don't think it was music that's being influenced by them now. That's successful, at least. Outside of the rock. I mean, rock itself has kind of died off. Oasis's revival is good, though, in my opinion. Obviously, they did sell a bunch of tickets. But I think that they won Britpop. They didn't win music, though. I think Albarn won music.
Time will tell.
Albarn later did the band The Gorillaz, which I find a lot better than Blur. But
I think Albarn's later sort of more experimental stuff is generally... there are like Blur fans I see who do love it, but usually it's like a kind of a precursor to that, more so than a thing in and of itself. So, I don't know, I've only listened to like one Blur album before, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't know most of it, but I still have to train on the cover. Nice album cover, but anyways, I need to listen to more Blur, but I will say, just... for a minute, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ben, but I think a lot of people better remember Damon Albarn from moving away from that style than really being a part of it. You know, Blur's most popular song is, in a lot of ways, song number 2 or whatever its name is, and that's not really exactly the same. That's kind of more of a Nirvana parody than it is a Oasis sounding song.
Yeah. I mean, that is a Brit pop song, but it doesn't really sound like Oasis, right? I don't know. David Albon, even though he's really influenced by the Kinks and the Beatles and Blowing, and I do like that. Just like Oasis is very influenced by, especially the Beatles. I don't know.
A little.
And you think I would like that better, but I like the Gorillaz a lot better. I don't know why. Back to What's the Story, Morning Glory. So Oasis had an album before this called Definitely Maybe, which was really successful in Britain, had helped make Britpop a genre. Did not really cross over here. I mean, it reached platinum here, so I guess it is still crossing over, but not in the same way it did in Britain. It went 9 times platinum in Britain, and 1 time platinum in the US. So, that's significant. They had worked with Johnny Moore, who you all know from the Smiths, on that. So they were already really big in Britain when this album, What's the Story, Morning Glory, came out. Oh my god, this was like the biggest album of all time. Not literally. Actually, initially got mixed reviews. Oh, it just went so massive that it's... Here in the US, it was massive. In Britain, it's like one of the most important albums of all time. It's like the genre-defining album for that genre. So, what do I think about this album? It's good. I mean, it is a good album. I don't know what else to say. It's not as amazing as some people nowadays. Well, not nowadays. People about 3 months after it was released, after the initial mixed reviews came out, acted. It's not like the greatest thing of all time. It's not equivalent to the Beatles. That being said, it is a good album. It is a quite good album. Songs like Roll With It, Don't Look Back in Anger. Some might say, I particularly like Champagne Supernova, the final track. And of course there was Wonderwall, which everyone already knows, so I don't have to talk about it. I think are all good songs. The production on this is quite good, in my opinion. The Gallagher's are terrible at singing, but it's mostly fine. The production and instrumentation and stuff is good enough. Noel Gallagher is good at writing songs. He is good at playing the guitar. He is good, along with Owen Morris, at producing it by taking inspiration from the George Martin Beatles production. It works on this album. Is this album the greatest thing I've ever heard? No. Is it like, wow, this is like this amazing new thing that descended from heaven like people acted? No. Is this a pretty good album? Yeah, this is a solid album. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit.
Banville, for a second, when you kept saying no, I thought you were going to break into a rendition of No Scrubs. Anyways, Matthew, it's your turn.
I am well known that I am not a fan of Oasis. I think they're one of the most overrated bands of all time. That being said, I actually have to hate myself for saying this, but I thought this album was pretty decent. I think a lot of Roll With It is a really good one. Don't Look Back in Anger, Champagne Supernova are my favorite tracks on the album. And the one song that I could not stand for the life of me is Wonderwall. I think it's honestly one of the most overrated songs of all time. I don't think it's good. I generally don't understand why people hail it as like one of the greatest written songs of all time. But that's neither here nor there. I think the production is really good. I would agree with Ben that the Gallaghers are not very good singers. They have Steely Dan syndrome, where like the lead singer of it is actually terrible and can't sing. But I have to give it to Oasis that this album is decent.
All right, fan.
All right. I think this is like one of the greatest albums ever made. So, I mean, I could gush for hours about how much I love this. I mean, I literally just bought the ticket to go see Oasis today.
Oh,
So, I'm
you got it?
definitely a very big fan. Yes, yeah, it was
Nice.
surprisingly extremely easy, despite everybody else having a ton of issues. I don't know how I got so lucky, but I got so I am a major fan of this band. Uh, I think this album is perfect from front to back. It's one of those, for me, one of those extremely rare records where it just everything hits. There are definitely songs that are as good as others because that's just how any album is. But I think from the opening notes of Hello to the ending of Champagne Supernova, I think for my money, it's hard to find any record better than this, pretty much. So I could go on and on about the history of it and about how important it is to music and whatnot, but at the end of the day, I just want to say that I just absolutely love this record. That's it. I got nothing else.
All right. Well, I guess it's my turn. So I mean, I listened to this. The only songs I was really familiar with this were Wonderwall and Don't Look Back until a lesser extent Champagne Supernova, although I was a bit less familiar with that than probably Wonderwall, Don't Look Back in Anger. But I listened to it and I quite liked it. I liked Hello. I liked Wall with it. I already liked Wonderwall and Don't Look Back in Anger. I will say I'm not a Wonderwall hater. Some other people here seem to hate Wonderwall. I actually think it's a pretty good song. I liked Hey Now. I liked Some Might Say. I liked She's Electric. I liked Morning Glory. I liked Champagne Supernova. The only song, other than the Swamp Song kind of interludes that I didn't really care for that much, was Cast No Shadow. That one I found kind of to be just kind of like a bit more contrived than some of the other ones. I don't know why. It just didn't really strike a chord with me. I will say that I do want to address Ben's statement that he thinks that the Gallagher's aren't very good at singing. I don't particularly think they're the best singers I've ever heard. I know there are some people who think they are, and so they'll make Liam Gallagher's sometimes listed as like one of the greatest singers. And I will say he's overrated in that sense, but I wouldn't say I think he's particularly awful at it either. I think he's decent. And he has, I think, the right voice for roughly the right type of music he is performing here. The right kinds of song, for the right kind of voice for the songs, the types of songs that'll hear. I do think it worked. His voice and their voices work well on. I do think on these songs, I'm getting kind of stumbled over my words here. But I do think both of them generally work the voices for the types of songs they're singing here. I think arrangement-wise, occasionally the backing vocals are maybe a little overdone just throughout the album. I don't think that's necessarily a vocal competency or skill level issue so much as it is a arrangement and maybe to a lesser extent mixing problem. But that's just my take. Some songs it works pretty well on, it's just others not as much. But yeah, generally though I thought this was a very solid album. I quite liked it. It is kind of similar to 60s rock, and it's like primarily the music like I'm a big fan of, so you know, you maybe can argue that it's a little too derivative in that. But it was at least maybe a little less derivative than I was expecting. So, I mean, I did like it, though. It isn't kind of a style I like. So, yeah, I mean, it's one I'll come back to, I'm sure. And it's one I quite enjoyed here. Alright, anyone have anything else to say about What's the Story, Morning Glory?
That it is the last good Oasis album because the next one is trash.
I haven't heard the next one. I'll take your word.
Oh, yeah, it's no good. It is no good, especially with the "Stand by Me." Would stand by you for like 10 minutes or all around the world in 90 days.
Okay, interesting. I have no clue what that's about, but I expect I'll learn one of these days what Matthew's talking about. Alrighty, moving on to which album we liked better. I could guess, I think, for the most part, how this is gonna go, but we are, of course, gonna start with you, Ben. Which album did you like better?
I spent most of the time between, but after listening to these albums, undecided on it. But I eventually have to come down on the side of What's the Story, Morning Glory. I just found it more enjoyable to listen to, even though Phil of the Black Planet is a great album.
Alright, Matthew.
What's the Story, Morning Glory?
Interesting. Fan.
Oh, I'm gonna go with What's the Story, Morning Glory.
Yeah, we're not too surprised about your pick. As for me, probably not very surprising based off of what I just said. My pick, either. Even as someone who quite liked both albums, I am going with What's the Story, Morning Glory. It is quite significantly better than Fear of the Black Planet, although I did actually, I think, quite like Fear of the Black Planet, so, yeah, that's it. Clean sweep, unanimous. Happens every so often. It's not the most common thing.
May we never hear an Oasis album ever again in this thing, because I gave them way too much praise.
What about Definite Maybe? Would you object to that?
It's fine. I think this is their one good album, but the rest of their work is just mediocre.
See, at the beginning of this video, you said Definite Maybe was their one good album.
Yeah, whatever. Like, Definitely Maybe and What's the Story, Morning Glory are their two good ones, and then, like, especially with, they're basically two album wonders. They don't have the sustainability to be considered one of the greatest rock bands of all time. Like, a number of bands like, the Beatles or Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd, they have, like, more than two good albums. They have, like, a run. And I think
Same album has more two good albums.
It's fair.
Same album has a lot more than two good albums.
Yeah, I think Oasis is not. I don't understand why. I think I understand why people like Oasis, but I don't understand why people like them that much. But hey, miracles do happen.
All I have to say is, stream Plastic Beach.
Stream Plastic Ono Band, too, while you're at it.
No, we're talking about Gorillaz. The Plastic Ono Band is not that good of an album anyway, but of the two, Plastic Beach is better.
Alright, guys, who picked what album? You ready? Anyone have any guesses?
Fan picked Oasis, Ben picked Public Enemy.
Alright, well, that's completely correct. Ben picked Public Enemy and Fan picked Oasis. Sometimes it's not so hard to tell. In fact, most of the time, it's pretty easy. But still, every so often we get a curveball, but not today, so, Well, that about wraps up another great episode. This was certainly one of our kind of meteor episodes in terms of what we talked about and for how long we talked. So I really hope you all enjoyed it. I certainly did enjoy filming it. So please be sure to like and subscribe if you like the video. Helps me out a lot. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.